branch of math, ladies and gentlemen, that deals with taking data, which is information, and organizing it and putting it in some sort of useful way, we like to call, maybe sometime in your life you'll do it, the short name, that's a big, we abbreviate it and we call it stats. Do you know what stats stands for? Yeah, it's statistics. Statistics. And statistics are very, very, very incredibly important in our world because just about everything that deals with marketing has some statistics in it somewhere. You know, your parents buy insurance and stuff like that, that's based on the statistics of people who get in accidents or don't get in accidents, and they base, because when you guys get to drive in another 4 or 5 years, your car insurance rates are through the roof. Why? Because the data shows that a majority of accidents happen to 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. The statistics show that the odds are this many people are going to get into an accident, so because of that, the insurance company charges you more because there's a higher chance of you getting into an accident. That's just kind of the way it goes. Whereas you get to be my age and 40 or 50 years old, then the insurance rates go down because I don't know. Rarely, occasionally, fewer people my age get into accidents than they do whatever. And then I suppose when you get to be 80 or 90-year-old, they go up again because, the likeliness of you falling asleep while you're driving probably goes up. Smith?
Is it the same like my sister's a stat girl for football?
Exactly, yes. In statistics in football, that's the keeping track of how many yards people get per run or tackles or blocks. Okay, but it needs to be organized in some way. Go ahead and open your books to 412 so you can kind of follow along with what we're going to talk here. It's a little time we have here. Just a lot of definitions there. It says the group of people researchers want to study is called the population. Okay, that's the people that are studied. Okay. Melissa's sister's population would be the football players, I'm sure there. And it says there, it says, suppose the managers of a theme park plan to build a new restaurant in its grounds, and the managers want to know the preference of the park attendees. The manager can collect information by conducting a survey. The people that are in the survey is called the population. And then they say often it's not, it would take way too long to do every person that walked into the park, so they do what is called a sample. And a sample would just be a small portion that represents a bigger one. Okay, a smaller portion. Now you have to be careful when you do just a sample that you don't get what we call in the statistical world a bias. Okay, and a case of that would be if you were running this theme park, okay, and you told your guy giving out the survey only to give it to kids who are 10 years old or younger, that survey would be a little bit biased. Why? Because you're probably going to get these kids wanting ice cream or whatever, whereas if you took it of, it would be like this. Let's say we're planning next year's, what next year's 8th graders are going to do for schoolwork, all right, and I let you were my population that I did the survey with. That's going to be a little bit biased because you people are going to want to do, yeah, you're going to want to go to the gym and play, you're going to want to go to lunch and eat. So given the sample based on you guys, pretty much 50% of our day would be eating lunch and the other 50% would probably be PE. So you have to be careful. When you take your sample, that it's not biased, and the word bias means, let me make sure I get it out of the book there, or a slant towards a particular point of view. I don't know what the better way to say that. Slanted towards a particular point of view. I'm gonna give you a big case here, and I hear this on the TV and on the radio all the time. I hear a radio ad that says, here it is, and see if you can figure out where the bias in this is. It might not be as easy. People who were on an insurance kick today switch to State Farm Insurance save an average of $300 a year. People who switch to State Farm save an average of $300 per year. That, by the way, is a fact. But what's biased in it? Where's the bias in that statement? Where is the bias in that statement there, Sammy?
Only the people who switch.
Exactly. What about the people who checked the rates and realized that State Farm was $200 more? Obviously, people who switch their insurance are going to do it because they're saving money. Okay? And people aren't going to switch if they're not going to save money. So this is completely biased toward people who switch to State Farm towards State Farm. And just listening to it, it sounds, wow, that sounds like everybody, everybody saves who switches. Well, that doesn't say that. Well, it does say that people who switch save an average, but it doesn't say everybody that checked out State Farm switches. So think of that for your bias there. Then a couple other things here we have. What's it say there? Oh, for example, what would be a way, if you were doing a theme park and you're doing a survey, what would be a way that you wouldn't get a bias? How could you take a random survey and make sure that it was kind of fair? What would be some ways? How could you give out these little survey forms so that it would be completely fair? Now, let me tell you, you could say, well, you could give it to the first 50 people that come to the park, but do the people that get to the park early, do they behave or act a little differently than people who come to the park later on? I know people who go to Yorkville's water park early, they do it usually because they have season passes and then they go for an hour before it gets real busy and then they leave. Whereas if you're paying $50 or whatever, you're going to stay the whole day if you don't have a season pass. So if you did the first 50, that might be a little more biased towards people who live in town more and maybe don't eat at the thing because you can't always afford to eat out all the time there. What would be a way to get a completely unbiased random sampling of the people there? Would you put a little thing up there and says everybody under 4 feet tall we should give a survey to? Gary?
Give one to each family.
Give one to each family, but then you're biased towards people that have families. What about the guy that just walks in there? I don't want to say the stalker guy because you got stalkers. What would be an unbiased way to send out these surveys? Well, the book says it if you read the thing. What did they do? They handed it out to whom? No. You can't do everybody because it just takes way too long. Right there it says, consider the survey that the theme park managers want to conduct. Wait, where does it say? Oh, for example, the manager of the theme park might ask every 100th person. Okay, so that would be unbiased because, or every 10th person. You just randomly count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That person gets a survey, whether they're a boy, a girl, a kid, an adult, a man, a stalker, whatever they are. That would be completely unbiased because it's completely randomly generated. Boom, 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 boom. It's a little like, when they take political polls, they always like tell you who's. Before political races, they say, well, whoever Bruce Rauner has a 5% lead. How do they figure that out? They just have to randomly. They have to randomly call. Just completely randomly. You couldn't call Democrats. You couldn't call Republicans because obviously that would give you a biased sort of thing. What else does it say there? It says, consider the survey that the theme park managers wish to conduct, discuss the difficulties of surveying the entire population. That is all. If the survey were conducted only among people in one or other restaurants at the park, would the sample be representative of the entire population? What does our water park have? What do they offer for food? Okay. If you gave the survey, if you walked up to one of those places and gave the survey to the people that were standing in the burger line, why would that? What would that be biased towards? People that like burgers. If you gave it to the people that wanted in the hot dog line, it'd be people who are hot dogs. About who? Yeah, corn dogs would be probably people who are biased to dying before their next birthday or something. No, let's write these down here. Along those lines here, we have two different types of data we talk about, and one of them is called quantitative. And the other one is called qualitative. I don't know if I spelled that right. Okay? Quantitative. I'm missing a whole bunch of letters, aren't I? Let's do that again. Quantitative. Quantitative. No. Thanks for noticing. And these are pretty easy to remember if you just look at the beginning words. Quant sounds like quantity, or the number, and qual sounds like quality, or the characteristics. Characteristics. For example, let's see if we got some examples there. What would be an example of something that, the book says it like this: we collect qualitative data that falls into categories, in this case, types of restaurants. Data that is numerical is qualitative. If it answers the question of how many, okay, then it is quantitative. If it asks the answer like what kind, or which do you prefer, then it's going to be qualitative. For example, the survey they gave where they asked what kind of food would you prefer, is that quantitative or qualitative? It's qualitative because they're asking about the quality, what kind. Quantitative would just be how many kids went to the park. You know, how many people rode this ride. How many people like spaghetti? Wait, how many? Not what kind of food do you like. Are you raising your hand for spaghetti? Yeah. Not a big pasta person. Oh. It's not that I don't like it, it's just I don't.
You don't need it.